thought we'd already invited the public. I thought I'd said that at 25 past.
Let's go.
We're here.
Are we live? Yes.
We are, yes.
Good morning, councillors, officers, members of the public and press. Welcome to this meeting of the Planning Committee. This meeting is a remote meeting being live streamed on the website and recorded. I'm going to hand over to Joe Stubbs from Democratic Services, who will do a roll call.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Planning Committee. We will begin the meeting by way of a roll call of all those in attendance remotely. Can I ask members to confirm that they have a paper copy of the agenda and that they can hear and see councillors in the meeting? We'll start off with Councillor Stephen Akers-Belcher. Nope. Okay. Councillor James Brewer.
Yes to both.
Lovely. Thank you. Councillor Paddy Brown.
Yes to both.
Thank you. Councillor Bob Buchan.
Yes to both.
Thank you. Councillor Tim Fleming.
Yes to both.
Councillor Marjorie James. We'll skip to the next person. Councillor Jim Lindridge.
Yes to all.
Thank you. Councillor Brenda Loynes.
Yes to both.
Councillor Carl Richardson.
Hi, Joe. Can I put apologies in for Carl Richardson, please?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Councillor Brown. We'll move on to Councillor Cameron Stokel. Nope. Okay. Councillor Mike Young.
Yeah, got both.
We'll just go back and check if we've got Councillor Stephen Akers-Belcher and Councillor Marjorie James or Councillor Cameron Stoke. Right, I think that concludes the roll call. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks, Joe. Are there any declarations of interest from members?
Yes. Well, our grandson's partner has a shop, a hairdresser's shop in Greetham. Do I need to declare an interest in that? I don't go the right.
I wouldn't have thought so. No,
Okay.
thanks, Councillor Lyons.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I did do a site visit to the Greetham site many months ago. I met residents and I immediately opened by stating that I was purely viewing, I was making no decisions, and I was just going to listen to what had to be said and view the area.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillor Buchan. Councillor Buchan. I think we can hear you, Councillor Buchan. Oh no, you're still on mute, Councillor. Sorry, must have been somebody else coming through. We'll come back to you, Councillor Buchan. Councillor Lindridge.
I'd like to state a non-prejudicial interest. I did actually visit the site and without even knowing, I spoke to a couple of residents, right, and I did tell them that I would make a balanced decision and I wouldn't be making any comment on that. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Lindridge. Councillor Buchan, do you want to come back in? Is it maybe the switch on your headset? No, it's there's a piece on the wire that you can. We'll come back to you, Councillor Buchan. Councillor James.
Hello, Mike. Can you actually hear me?
Yes, very clearly.
Hello.
Hi, Councillor James. Councillor
Right,
James.
well, I can't hear you clearly. I've missed every second, third, fourth word that people are saying, including yourself.
Yeah, it sounds like connection issues.
And I've had to log in twice now.
That's not great. Sorry about that.
Hello.
Not much we can do, I'm afraid, Councillor James, about that. Councillor Buchan.
Yes, all it was, Mike, as a councillor for Fens and Rosmere. I attend Greetham Parish Council.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Myself and Councillor Lyons, and if Councillor Stokel joins, we attend Greetham Parish Council as well as Ward councillors, so we'll put that on record, but that's not prejudicial in itself. Can I just make a point, as people have said that they've independently done a site visit physically to the Greetham site, obviously before COVID happened. We had some virtual site visits for the first time this past Monday, and can I just say they were excellent. No members asked for physical site visits after the information that was given and the detailed pictures and photographs and the Google Earth demonstration. It was a very thorough experience, and members were collectively very happy with the way that went. So thanks to officers for the work put into that. Councillor Lyons.
Thank you, Chair. I've seen that everybody said about the attending the Greetham Parish Council meetings. I've been going there for years now, and I also go to the Greetham Residents Association meetings as well, the pre-meeting and the full meetings. Okay, just to clarify that.
Thank you, Councillor Lyons. Item 3, minutes of the meeting. Are we happy with the minutes of the last meeting on the 8th of July?
Agreed.
Well, that's a nodding head. Thank you very much for that. Okay, item 4. 4.1 plan applications, and number 1 is land at Hillview, Greetham. I'm going to ask Dan to present the report. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Chair. This item starts on page 2 of the PowerPoint and of your handout, members. The site relates to land at Hillview, Greetham. Planning permission is sought for residential development comprising the erection of 18 dwellings with associated access, infrastructure and landscaping, and the provision of a temporary construction compound. The proposed layout of the site is shown on Plan 2, page 3 of the PowerPoint. The temporary site compound is to be located in the northwest corner of the site, as indicated here on the screen. House type elevation drawings and a proposed street scene are shown on pages 4 to 6 of the PowerPoint. The main 2-storey dwellings are to be bookended by bungalows. Here we have the bungalows. As we move through, we've got the 2-storey dwelling house type elevations. Page 7 of the PowerPoint shows the proposed boundary enclosure types ranging from low-level bow top railings up to 1.8 metre high closed border timber fencing. Plan 7 and page 8 of the PowerPoint shows where each type of the boundary enclosure is proposed to be applied. Notwithstanding this, final details of boundary enclosures would be agreed by virtue of a planning condition. Plan 8 and page 9 of the PowerPoint shows the proposed landscaping across the site, including the proposed enhancement works to the northwest of the site, final details of which are to be secured by a condition, as discussed in paragraph 1.31 of the committee report. The proposal is set out in full within the report. The application site currently comprises a grassed and maintained area of open space situated between Saltaire Terrace and Hillview in Greetham. The site of the proposed development extends approximately 0.38 hectares and is bounded by the rear gardens of the existing properties on Saltaire Terrace to the east, the adopted highway of Marsh House Lane to the south, and the properties of Hillview to the west. An existing public footpath, open space and player park are present to the north, northeast and northwest. To the north of the site, beyond the player park, planning permission has been recently granted for land at Station Road for the erection of 36 dwellings and is currently under construction, as indicated here on the plan. To the northwest of the site is Greetham Church of England Primary School. The existing public footpath networks to the north, south and west of the site link into the wider network of footpaths in the area that continue northward into the village centre. Photographs of the site are shown on pages 10 to 16 of the PowerPoint, which I will now go through. Photo 1 shows the highway to the south of the site with the actual application site on the left of the photo. Photo 2 shows the view looking from south to the north across the site. Photo 3 shows a view looking south across the site towards the properties in Hillview. Photo 4 shows the view looking southeast across the site towards the properties in Saltaire Terrace. Photo 5 shows the view looking to the north of the site towards Saltaire Terrace and the existing playground. Photograph 6, which is from a few months ago, shows a view looking to the north of the current application site towards the adjacent development on land off Station Road that is currently under construction. Photograph 7 shows existing temporary construction compound and the site of the proposed open space enhancement to the northwest of the main site. Both the relevant planning history and the site context for the application site are set out in the committee report. The application was deferred for a site visit at the previous meeting of the 8th of July 2020. A virtual site visit took place on Monday of this week. The application has been referred to the Planning Committee due to the number of objections received. Turning to publicity, the application was advertised by way of 82 neighbour letters, 2 site notices and a press notice. To date, 41 objections have been received, citing concerns that include conflict with planning policy, the impact on the character of the area, the amenity and privacy of neighbours, impact on local services, highway and pedestrian safety, ecology, the loss of open space, amongst others. These and all other planning and residual matters are set out and addressed in the report. Turning to consultations, no objections have been received from technical consultees, subject to appropriate planning conditions and obligations. Their responses are set out in detail within the committee report. However, objections have been received from Greetham Parish Council, Elwick Parish Council, the Hartlepool Rural Neighbourhood Plan Group, and the Hartlepool Civic Society, and these are detailed in full within the report. Turning to the main planning considerations that are set out in full within the report, the application site is an unallocated land in the local plan. However, the majority of the site is allocated for housing in the Rural Neighbourhood Plan, and the site sits within the development limits of Greetham. It is noted in this instance that the proposal includes an additional 6 dwellings above the approximate Rural Neighbourhood Plan allocation. However, there is no policy constraint preventing the number of dwellings proposed to be higher, providing there are no material planning considerations that would indicate otherwise. Notwithstanding this, it is acknowledged that in order to accommodate the proposed dwellings, the site encroaches into an area of designated amenity open space to the north. However, this is considered a relatively modest loss in the context of the abundant open space in this area, and the proposals include landscaping within the site and the enhancement of the adjacent amenity open space to the northwest, as indicated on Plan 8, page 9 of the PowerPoint, as indicated here on the screen. This is in accordance with the requirements of the local plan and the Rural Neighbourhood Plan. In view of this, and for the reasons set out in detail within the report, the principle of development is considered to be acceptable, subject to the identified planning obligations are set out in the committee report. With respect to the impact on the character of the area, it's considered that the proposals are a good design, reflecting elements of the approved adjacent site, whilst remaining sympathetic to the existing dwellings in this area, and will therefore positively contribute to the character and appearance of the area. In terms of the impact on the amenity and privacy of neighbours, adequate separation distances between the existing and proposed properties are in line with local plan requirements and are maintained throughout the site. Furthermore, no objections have been received from the Council's public protection team. The application is therefore considered to be acceptable in this respect. In view of the comments from relevant technical consultees, the proposals are also considered to be acceptable in respect of all of the relevant material planning considerations, subject to appropriate conditions set out in detail in the report. With respect to any residual and non-material matters, these are being considered and addressed within the report. Subject to identified planning conditions and planning obligations and contributions, which would be secured through a 1 or 6 legal agreement, the proposal is therefore recommended for approval and is considered to be acceptable. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Dan. Tom Graham.
Am I unmuted?
You are.
Okay, it was a
we can hear you.
Hands up. I put it up when the members were declaring interest. It's just the point about membership of parish councils. That's not necessarily a problem, provided that the relevant member didn't participate in the debate at the parish council.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tom. Much appreciated. Questions for the officer, Councillor Lindridge.
Thanks, Chair. Just a point of clarification. During the consultation period, whether it be 1 or 2, I do believe that initially there was 12 properties, right? Was the consultation based on the 12, or when the additional 6 were added on to make them up to 18? Were the consultations done en bloc, or were the residents aware the consultations were based on the 12 rather than the 18? Just for clarity, thank you.
I think we'll bring Tim Wynne in on that one, please. Tim, are you there? Tim? It's very crackly, but yeah, just about.
the consultation was always carried out with the
Yeah,
the full
we can't.
complement of the
You sound like a robot, unfortunately, Tim. I'm not sure what's going on. Somebody's going to come through and then check that. Is there any other officers who can comment on that while Tim's getting his earphones sorted out? Yeah, Dan.
Thank you, Chair. In respect of the councillor's query, that pre-application consultation took place by the applicant. In respect of the actual planning application, the consultation is detailed within the report, and that related to the scheme that's before members, which was for the 18 dwellings.
So there's only 18. It was always 18 houses that were consulted upon.
In respect of the planning application consultation, yes, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Lyons.
Thank you, Chair. Just a point of clarification, Dan. The compound, the site compound, because I was there yesterday again. I know every square inch, as I said, of Greetham. I've been councillor for 8 years there. The actual compound that's shown on the screen there is what is up now, so it wouldn't be anything extra. Is that right, Dan?
Thank you, Councillor. That is the site compound. As I say, once construction is finished to the north of the site, and obviously should planning permission be granted for Hillview, the compound would need to be removed, and a scheme which would be secured by a planning condition for the final enhancement works would take place and be required to be carried out within an agreed timetable. In respect of the amount of the compound, it'd probably be best to bring Tim in for that to answer that question. If that's okay.
Yep.
Okay. Tim's getting some technical difficulty. Could we have a bit more social distancing between yourselves, please, Tim and Jeff? That would be useful. Jim, do you want to come in?
Thank you, Chair. Just in respect to the compound, while Tim's trying to sort the communications out, as I understand it, the compound is currently being used in respect to the housing development located to the north of this site. What's intended to happen is that should planning permission be approved for this development, then that compound will be used for the purposes of delivering this development. So as I understand it, it will be the same compound area. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, that's clarified that. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Lyons. If there are no more questions, we'll move on to. Is Tim speaking as the applicant as well?
Yes, I am. Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Oh yes, perfectly. Yeah, great. Okay, yeah, that's great. Tim, do you want to add something before you go into your 4 minutes? Because obviously there's been a few questions there about the site. You may not have heard all of them. Jim and Dan have done a good job in terms of answering the questions about the consultation in this application was on the 18 houses that are before members today, and the other part was about the compound is going to be used for this site should the application be approved today. Is that correct as well?
Should, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I'll ask you to do your 4 minute statement if that's okay, and I'll give you a 30-second warning when it's due to finish. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning. My name is Tim Wynn, and one of my roles here at the council is to take our estate of affordable rented housing stock and not only grow it, but help rebalance it with modern quality affordable accommodation that meets the needs of Hartlepool's residents, importantly throughout both town and village settings. If I could just reiterate certain points and correct one or two misconceptions about the scheme. This is, of course, a proposed development of 18 affordable rented housing units on council-owned land with a variety of housing types, namely 2, 3, 4 bed houses and 2-bedroom bungalows. These units are to be held long-term by the council so that present and future affordable housing requirements are met. The units are, of course, needed in this particular mix, as shown by our own evidence of need, the Council's Strategic Housing Market Assessment, as confirmed by planners. It has been, in fact, suggested that the proposals, if granted, will be a drain on the council, which is not at all correct. As members would expect, the scheme has had to be considered as a self-funded business case and does not rely on funding from the council. The debt is serviced by the income that the scheme brings in, which is considerable, and there is considerable grant funding from Homes England. Grant aid, I would add, that would be lost to the town if not taken up. Of the 18 units, 16 are situated on the allocated housing site in the neighbourhood plan, the village's own plan. Much has been said about this small incursion into the public open space towards the north of the site. However, this needs to be very much put into context. We're only talking about 2 semi-detached affordable bungalows out of 18 units in total. I repeat, 2 bungalows most likely to be occupied by either the elderly or those with particular needs, and the rent of which is needed to make the scheme financially viable. As members will know, our local plan does provide for just such an incursion where warranted. It provides for either compensatory open space or, in this instance, enhancements to nearby open space, which you can see is proposed on the nearby grassed area to the north with seating. You'll have noted planning officer's comments that the scheme is of appropriate density and subject to the mitigation for this small incursion. The proposals would constitute sustainable development and not be contrary to the development plan. They comment importantly that need will be met substantially elsewhere on remaining allocated open space to the north and west of the site. The design and layout of the scheme is acceptable to the council's planning officers in keeping with surrounding properties, and all necessary separation distances with neighbouring existing properties are met. You will also note that the supposed concerns as to highways matters and the local road network capacity are not shared by highways officers, nor is the view that there is insufficient capacity at the local schools. It's being established by council officers that both Greetham Primary and Manor Community Academy School have sufficient capacity. We have here, members, a scheme which has considerable policy support. It's true that there has been objections. The core of these objections seem to quite candidly centre on the council's proposed oversupply of affordable rented properties over those that should be built for private sale. And I'll leave you to make of that what you will. This is certainly not a view shared by officers. Members, I would ask that you please support this modest scheme and follow the officer's recommendation for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Any questions from members for Tim? No. There's quite a bit of background noise going on. Can we make sure our microphones are muted if we're not actually speaking, please?
Councillor Brown, Chair.
All right. Can the objector come forward, please? You'll have 4 minutes to speak. Is the objector with us? Oh, sorry. Sorry. Just give me 1 second. Councillor Brown's just put his hand up. Just give me 1 second. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. I didn't just put it up, and David actually announced it, but I think the connection is poor, which is partly why I'm asking this question, because I lost a little bit of what was just said. Did you say there was 2 bungalows or 4? The drawing seems to show 4, but it sort of went all crackly when you were speaking, and I just want to clarify that point. Thanks, Chair.
Tim, do you want to come back?
Yeah, to clarify, what I was saying was there are 4 bungalows in total of the 18. The point I was making is that 2 of them are the ones that are the small incursion into the triangle of public open space at the top. But there are 4 in total, effectively bookending the scheme.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tim.
Thanks, Councillor Brown. Okay, so who have we got as the objector? Oh, sorry, Councillor Lyons.
Just a quick one. A point. Sorry about that. A point has been raised about lighting, the state of the pool lighting. Obviously, I've been up at all times of the day and night, and it was like yesterday when I went up. Is there any plans to put more lighting in, better lighting in that area? I can't remember reading it in the report.
Thanks, Councillor Lyons. Tim.
There aren't plans as such to enhance the wider area. It'll have the appropriate lighting for a residential scheme of that size and density on the site of that capacity.
Thank you. Okay. We are ready for the objector now, I think. Who's on the line, please? Hello.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Just about, yeah.
You turn your volume up, Trish.
There we go. We're there. Okay, so how many objectors have we got speaking this morning?
I'm going to speak, and Mrs. Mills is there in case there's a communication problem.
That's brilliant. That's good. Thanks for thinking of that. That was well thought out. Okay, you've got 4 minutes, and that starts now. Thank you.
Oh, I was just going to say first, Chair, that I have timed the speech. It came in at 4 minutes and 7 seconds. I hope that you'll bear with me to the end of what we have to say this morning. And
no problem.
Are you ready
yep.
now? Right. Okay. Good morning, councillors. On behalf of the residents, the first point I wish to make is that we are not against development within Greetham. There are currently 36 social rent-to-buy houses being built to join in this proposal that there is no recognised need or requirement for them in this area. However, as residents of Hartlepool, we recognise the responsibility of the council to provide social housing. From the outset of this application to build at Hillview, we feel the applicant has ridden roughshod over residents' concerns. From the development being announced as a done deal on social media prior to the application, undocumented meetings with the parish council used as part of the formal planning application, no consultation with the residents, dismissing any concerns we may have, and the driving force of the matter clearly being set as fiscal expediency, the desire of the applicant to build, and the comfort of the people who may move into these properties. The existing residents and taxpayers' concerns have been dismissed at every turn. This is infill development of the very worst kind. Not content with this, the applicant has managed to virtually ignore the very essence of good house building within communities by cherry-picking their way through the many policies that have been devised to ensure good housing development. Starting with the National Planning Policy Framework, we contend that this proposal does not meet any of the economic, social or environmental objectives of the policy, and have provided proof of such within our opposition letters which have been supplied to you. The Neighbourhood Rural Plan was integrated into the Hartlepool Development Plan and legally adopted by the Council. This plan took 6 years and hundreds of hours of work to complete, yet the recommendations of the plan have been skirted round, dismissed, been selected out of context or mitigated by the applicant. They certainly have not been adhered to, and it is a poor acknowledgement of those involved to have their work discarded in this way. The planning statement submitted was a litany of falsehoods and inaccuracies that do not reflect the current situation in the village, and there was little effort on the part of the composers to check whether their information was correct. It is littered with bald statements that have no evidence, experience or proof to substantiate what is said, unlike our submissions, which are all supported. Until this point, we have referred to the applicant, but now we need to raise what is believed to be the crux of the problem that we are experiencing. The applicant is yourself, Hartlepool Borough Council. This is a situation where you are applying to yourself. This application is a question being asked between two internal departments of the council. It would appear that instead of taking the stance that because it is internal, the requirement to be scrupulous in attention to detail, being above board, transparent, open and honest in their application would, one thinks, have a greater priority. But it appears more a case of two departments colluding to push this matter through, careless to following the rules because at the end of the day, the employees appear to believe they can manipulate information and press their stance upon the councillors of the planning committee to accept their proposal. It saddens us that an underhand approach is preferred to an inclusive, working with neighbourhoods and communities approach. This is the very essence of the Localism Act. This has become a very contentious issue, and it has given us no great pleasure to have to fight for our right to ensuring we are allowed to be part of the processes in our council's decisions to decide upon the type of community we live in. And it's not just this urban style development in a rural village. It is taking away the valuable green area that contributes to our community cohesion, our health and well-being. And it is contrary to your very own green infrastructure policy approved as recently as February this year. Most importantly, when you all move on to the next item on the agenda, we, the residents, have to live with the decision that will be made today. We're asking you, our councillors, to stand up for us. We expect our highest standard of our council departments.
30 seconds left.
We're asking you, we're asking you, our councillors, to stand up for us. Expect the highest standards of our council departments. Defend our rights to community and green spaces, and confirm your reputations as fair-minded and equitable representatives of the residents of Greetham and the constituents of Hartlepool. I thank you for being given the opportunity to speak, and if you have any questions of us, I'll remain online for the rest of the application. Thank you.
Thanks so much. 5 seconds to go. Thank you for that, Ms. Stevenson. I'm going to take some advice from Tom Graham, who's our barrister. There's been a lot of accusation within that in terms of the role of the council. I'd like Tom's view on that, please.
Okay. Well, can you hear me? Okay.
I can, Tom.
Okay. Well, the only question for members today is whether the information in front of them provides them with everything they need in terms of material planning considerations. So I've looked at the planning report, etc. That seems to be the case for me, but obviously that's a matter for members. Assertions about bad faith are not matters for this planning committee. If local residents feel that there has been bad faith during the planning process, then there are other channels for dealing with that, but they're not, those channels are not in the context of the planning committee. So that's my point in relation to bad faith. As I say, going back to my initial point, the only question for members here is whether they have sufficient information to believe that all material planning considerations are now in front of them and have been fully ventilated by the officers.
Thank you, Tom. That's fine. Thank you, Tom. Any questions from members to the objector? None. There are no ward councillors who want to speak on this matter. Okay, we'll enter general debate. Councillor Lindridge. Councillor Lindridge. You must be still on mute, Councillor Lindridge.
Okay, thanks, Chair. Yeah, sorry, this was to the objector. In fairness of good faith, I would anticipate or expect higher standards from the Hartlepool Borough Council departments, whichever, right? But I would like to know, when we talk about the consultations, you say that they haven't been consulted with, and what evidence have you got with whom and when and where the consultations took place that excluded residents? Yeah, I'd be interested to know what your views are on that.
Thank you, Councillor Lindridge. Apparently, there were 2 informal meetings, and I tried to clarify those meetings with the council. I was told that they were informal meetings between Mr. Shane Moore and Mr. Tim Wynne and members of the parish council. I don't know which ones, which members of Greetham Parish Council, because no minutes.
I don't think it's relevant. I think proper statutory public consultation has taken place, and I think that's what we're looking at today. We've got to take a view based on the consultations that are being carried out in terms of the law, and I think that's what Tom was alluding to before. I'm going to bring Tom back in just to clarify that point.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, going back to my point on assertions of bias and matters relating to the council's conduct, those are not matters for a planning committee. There are separate channels which can be pursued if a member of the public feels that there have been dealings behind closed doors. But the only matters for a planning committee relate to whether they have sufficient information to deal with material planning considerations. If the answer to that one is yes, then allegations of bias, informal meetings, etc., If they want to be pursued, they will have to be pursued in another place.
May I come back in, Chair?
I think the position's fairly clear. The application before is what we're dealing with. The consultations have been carried out within the law. So unfortunately, we're going to have to move on. Councillor Brown.
Chair, I'm sorry.
Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I have 2 or 3 things I wanted to mention. One was the fact that it was mentioned that there was no consultation with residents. Jim's already brought that up, and it has been answered. I won't dwell on it for too long, but I'm a little bit confused because I think what Trish is saying is that she received no consultation and other residents that live very close. I don't know, but I would like that clarifying. Secondly, the houses that the new development backs onto at the moment seem to have access out onto that land, and it looks to me like that access will be no longer existing. Can we clarify that? And another thing that was brought up in Trish's speech was that area has no need for these houses. How can we quantify whether that is the best place to build them or not? Can we look at that, please?
Dan, do you want to come back on that point, and I'll bring Tom back in? So Dan first, and then Tom.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So just to clarify, formal planning consultation to residents has been carried out through 82 neighbour letters, 2 site notices, and a press notice. So we always go above and beyond when it comes to consultations in terms of what we do in planning. In terms of what I think the residents talking about is the application consultation, which for this type of application isn't a statutory requirement in planning legislation. And as the barrister has already advised, those concerns about what has or hasn't taken place isn't for this current committee to consider. We have carried out the relevant consultations. As I say, that consists of 82 neighbour letters, 2 site notices, and a press notice. Generated from that, we've had 41 objections received. In respect of your latter query regarding need, the main sort of policy considerations are set out in some detail within the report. And to summarise, it has been considered in some detail by officers, including the planning policy section, who conclude that on balance, the scheme is acceptable in respect to the relevant planning policies.
Tom?
Okay, 2 points, Chair. The first is that the regulations which govern consultation are specifically enhanced when it comes to council own applications. So the government was well aware of the sensitivity of these things. Therefore, the consultation requirements are appropriately enhanced, and those enhanced consultation procedures have been applied. The second point is in relation to Ms. Stevenson, who indicated that she hasn't received any consultation requests. But the fact of the matter is that she has had a fair crack of the whip when it comes to making her points known, not least because she's just had 4 minutes to do so. So she hasn't been prejudiced at all by any lack of consultation, if indeed there was any lack of consultation.
Okay, thanks, Tom.
Can I come back to that, Chair, please?
Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. I don't know if I missed the bit about the rear access, if it wasn't answered, or bad signal, or I just lost concentration. But did we get to the bottom of the rear access? Thank you, Chair.
Dan.
I think it'd be, if it's okay with you, Chair, to bring Tim in to answer that query, because it's not, Tim, again, relevant to this plan application. Thanks.
Okay, is that me, Chair?
Tom, do you want to come in, Tom? Yeah, come in, Tom.
Yes, that point has been brought to my attention. The position of, I think there are a couple of gates there. We saw that on the virtual site visit, but the question whether or not those landowners have a legal right of access to the green area is a matter which is separate to these planning considerations. If they feel that they have legal access rights, then that's a matter which they'll have to take up with the council as the landowner, and they'll have to see if they can prove their case. At the moment, it's not a matter that concerns me on the town and country planning front. It's a property matter, and it is something that if it needs to be ventilated, it will be ventilated through the proper property procedures within the council. So as I say, it's not a material planning consideration at the moment. There's nothing unusual in this. You often find this type of situation arising on planning applications, and they are purely matters of land ownership. They're not planning matters.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Kieran Bostock.
Sorry, I'm using Kieran's computer, given the problems with the microphone before. It's Tim Wynn,
isn't it?
Yeah. Just to pick up on the question of the rear access, as Tom Graham says, it's not a matter of planning. That there have been four, notwithstanding that, there have been four applications made asserting that the properties that have gates onto that area at Hillview have rights to come and go via their rear gates. It's something that we are disputing, I think it's fair to say, but notwithstanding that, there is the possibility of, and this is something that we have considered, because it has been vented for a number of weeks and months now, whether or not we give those four. It would be relatively easy to give those four properties that are claiming their prescriptive rights of way out of their back gate access to a rear Ginnell lane, call it what you will, which would run behind the properties, which is an arrangement which has been used elsewhere in the town and is quite common for when properties when these situations arise. So that could deal with that matter quite easily, but not necessarily a matter for today per se.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Tom, could I take some advice on the objector, Mrs. Stevenson, who's adamant that she wants to come back into the conversation? What's the advice?
Well, again, can you hear me, Chairman?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I tend to be a bit formal in these situations and say that the objector has had her 4 minutes. Therefore, that's all she has available to her in this committee meeting.
Okay. Okay. Any more general debate? Councillor Brown. You're on mute, Councillor Brown. You're still on mute, Councillor Brown. Uh-oh. Try the one on the screen. Press the one on the screen. Technology hasn't been our friend today. Councillor Brown, you were nearly there, I think. It did connect for a second. I'll come back to you, Councillor Brown. Councillor Lyons.
Thank you, Chair. As I've stated before, I've been a councillor for Greetham for about 8 years now, and I know every square inch of Greetham, and I've had relatives live there many, many years ago. I've never ever seen anybody on that piece of land ever. Never. I know I'm not there 24/7, but I've never seen anybody playing on there or anything. But I counted 3 gates in the fence, and I just wondered if they had planning permission, if they had to have planning permission. if it was approved, there are 21 conditions attached to the application, which would be vehemently applied to sustain the village. Now, a number of points have been made, and Ms Stevenson has daily, from Christmas to yesterday, sometimes twice a day, sent emails, and I think we know the position of residents as well quite clearly, that they want the village sustaining, but over the years I've been talking to different residents, and they don't want to build on the outside of the village because they don't want it to encroach in the town, or the town encroaching the village, and the village status be lost. So then you've got to look at the strips of land in the village, which there's not that many, but points have been made about there's no regular bus service as well. There is, unlike Dalton and Elwick, which is part of our ward as well, and also West Park. There's no bus services there. There's no shops there neither. So I'm a bit like that with this one. But I just, if it's approved, then it's approved. If it isn't approved, well, then we see where we go from there. But I think the points of the villagers have been made quite clear by emails from Ms Stevenson and other villagers. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Thanks, Councillor Lyons. Councillor James.
Hello, Chairman.
Hello.
I hope you can hear me now.
Very clearly, yeah.
Now, I'm in a little bit of a situation here because I have not been a participant in all of the meeting. Therefore, under the rules, I'm denied a right to vote. And I respect that. But I did have some points to raise, not just on the application, they're more general than that. So I want to raise them now in general debate, if that's okay.
So, Tom, is that something that we can do if Councillor James hasn't been part of the full planning conversation?
Through no fault of my own.
Yeah, I think it's, I mean, I have been contemplating this because it's, the standard procedures were never designed to deal with virtual meetings and technical problems. So I think Councillor James is quite right to say that she can't go to the vote because she hasn't heard everything that's been said during the debate. But it's a matter for the committee, and in particular you, Chair. But
yeah, I think it's sorry, Tom. I think it's 6.4 in the meeting procedures for remote meetings that says if a member can't connect, they're deemed to have left the meeting. So I've got that in the back of my mind.
Chair, I'd like to propose that Marjorie is allowed to say whatever she wants us to say that may add some value.
Okay. No,
I agree with that, Chair. I'll second that.
That's fine. Okay, Councillor James, proceed.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that. The points that I wanted to make, Chair, and I would have made them at the very beginning if I had the opportunity to do so, is that on 2 occasions this planning application has come before us prior to today. And on both occasions, I requested, supported by members of the committee, for a site visit. And at the last meeting, last week or whenever it was, we actually all agreed that there should, if possible, be a site visit. Now, to my extent, that's been completely ignored. The only opportunity that's been offered is for the virtual meeting, which took place, I believe, on Monday. I didn't attend that. I didn't attend that.
Just to clarify, Councillor James, I think that the decision was made that we would do the site visit, and members would be asked at the virtual site visit, sorry, to determine whether they then felt that they needed a physical site visit. And
right. Well, I'd already made my position clear, Chair, that I wanted a physical site visit. That I was quite clear about that in the last meeting, because, like others, I've been bombarded by emails, Saturdays and Sundays included, for the last at least 3 months by residents of Greetham, or on their behalf. Now, I've also asked for some guidance within the committee structure as to whether that now means that members in some cases may feel that they've been overly bombarded by emails, and therefore to an extent cannot any longer have an unbiased position. They're either biased in favour of the residents, or in some cases they may be biased in relation to the council's position. But I think it does throw up a little bit of a shadow over members' participation in this decision making. I'm now being denied my right to participate through no fault of my own. The system from HBC has been very poor this morning, and I've been thrown out 4 times, so I've had to log back in 4 times so far. It's just absolutely ridiculous. But I would have abstained anyway, because of the position that I feel I have not been given all of the information or the opportunity to gain it via a proper site visit.
Thanks, Councillor James. I think it's point 2 of the agenda. Members gave their declarations of interest, and there was non-prejudicial declarations made at that point in relation to Hillview, even though there was a very broad understanding of everything that's going on with this particular application, unless any member wants to correct me on that. Councillor Lindridge.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, thanks, Tom, for the information regarding material or non-material disclosures, so it can give the opportunity for members to vote correctly. Yeah, I'm on regeneration, and I supported the housing needs of the town, whether that be generically or whether that be in Greetham's situation on the outskirts. I'm a little bit perturbed, actually, and I feel that, and I understand the frustration of the objector, but I feel we have, as members, we have a duty of care to listen. I know they've only got 4 minutes, and it is difficult. Councillor James has alluded to the emails that's been coming for the last 3 months, and I have actually read the emails there, and I feel a little bit uncomfortable in terms of feeling as though the consultation with the residents isn't what it appears to be. So I'm feeling quite uncomfortable about making decisions in this instance. I really do feel that strongly about it. And even though I've said in the past, I've just said recently that I am on regeneration, I want the housing needs of the town to be met. But I have a feeling that there's that much information in it, it's getting quite complex. I'm not really sure whether I feel comfortable on voting this application through. But that's at this minute. I'll just wait till the end of the conversation and other members have contributed for making a decision.
Well, Councillor Lindridge, before you go, so what is it that you're proposing? Because if is there anything that you're proposing? Is there
well, what I'm saying
is,
is there a way that whatever way we vote this is taken to a higher level outside of the council's remit?
Tom?
And the decision is taken away from us.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Lindridge. Tom?
Thank you, Chair. The first point is that the council has a statutory duty to determine a planning application. We can't field it off to someone else. I don't know who that someone else would be anyway, I hasten to add. But the second point is that lobbying is quite normal during the planning process. That's set out in the council's own code of conduct for planning committees. It's a normal situation in the context of planning committees. It goes with the territory, and the fact that members have been bombarded with lots of emails doesn't change that. The only question for members is not whether they feel uncomfortable, but whether they feel that they can approach the determination of this matter in an open-minded fashion. And I underline the words open-minded because those are the words in the statute. So the only question for members is not whether they're subject to some form of unconscious bias or something, which is rather difficult to determine, but whether they feel capable of approaching the matter in an open-minded fashion, taking account of the material planning considerations in an objective fashion and then reaching a decision. So As to the point about complexity, well, again, it goes with the territory. Planning applications are often very complex. It's one of the pleasures of our statutory duty that we do sometimes have to wrestle with very difficult applications. But again, that goes with the territory.
Thanks, Tom. Okay, we'll move to the vote then with that advice given. We're going to go to a roll call, as is the norm. And Joe, I'll hand over to you to do the roll call, please.
Thank you.
I should just sorry, Joe, just before you do that, I should just confirm that the officer's recommendation is to approve the application. That's what the officer's recommendation is.
Right, I'm going to read out members' names. If you could confirm if you are for the application, against the application, or will be abstaining. We'll start with Councillor Brewer.
For.
Councillor Brown.
Against.
Councillor Buchan.
Against.
Councillor Fleming.
Against.
We've already established that Councillor James is not able to vote. Councillor Lindridge.
Against.
Councillor Loynes.
For.
And finally, Councillor Young.
For. The vote, I think, has gone against the recommendation.
It has 4-3
of officers. So we will hand over to Jim, who I'm hoping is going to be able to summarise in some fashion. I imagine that's going to be quite difficult, Jim, but I'll let you try and summarise, and then we'll move to a proposer and a seconder for the reason for that refusal, or you might want to seek from members why they have decided to refuse.
I think, Chair, I am in difficulties because no one has really elucidated or elucidated for planning reasons why they want to refuse the application. There have been various questions raised about consultation and lobbying and the like, but no one has really given me a reason as to why this application should be refused, a planning reason that is. So I would ask those that are proposing to refuse it if they could give me a reason so that we can record that on the decision notice.
Yes, I think if I could chip in, Chair, the legal position is quite clear when it comes to reasons for refusal, which is that the council must, as a matter of law, set out the reasons for refusal on the decision notice. So it is a matter for members to articulate why they feel planning permission ought to be refused. Now, that doesn't need to be in precise legal terminology, because that's a matter for officers to actually cross the T's and dot the I's. But members do need to give officers a broad indication of what they feel are appropriate reasons for refusal.
The floor is open to members. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. I think for me, Chair, the questions that I asked weren't answered clearly enough for me to make the decision to vote for it. One that was open-ended was the bit about the Ginnell. Our council is going to spend a lot of money building a project that at some other point the people who live in the existing houses could get the rights for that, which means then we'd have to spend more expense.
But we need a planning reason, Councillor Paddy Brown. We need a planning.
Material
consideration in planning.
The reason I voted against is that I didn't see enough good answers to make me vote for, Chair.
It's not a planning reason, Councillor Brown. Councillor James.
Thank you, Chair. I think that it's safe for me to comment now that the decision's been taken, and if it's of any assistance to other members, Ginnells and the creation of them in a community actually cause antisocial behaviour and the opportunity for criminality to take place. Therefore, under the material conditions for planning, we're supposed to plan out crime, not plan it in.
Councillor James, in the planning application before us, there is no reference to a Ginnell.
Yes.
Well, that to be fair, Chair, it's been mentioned by officers of Hartlepool Borough Council this morning that the way
but it's not in the application.
Well, I'm sorry, but Tim Wynn came onto this system, and I heard him say that they could accommodate the 3 or 4 that have gates by creating a Ginnell. That's what was said. And if that's the intention, then obviously there is an intention to do so, and that would be planning in criminality, not planning it out.
Yeah, so like a chip in again, Chair, the application in front of members is the application that's been explained by planning officers at the beginning of the meeting. It doesn't include a Ginnell at all, so it's not appropriate to consider an application that's not in front of members. If the landowner at a later date feels that a Ginnell is appropriate, then obviously that would be a matter of consideration at that time. And Councillor James is right. One of the things we would need to ponder is whether or not the Ginnell is actually going to cause create what I call a mugger's row. But that's a matter for the future. The application of members doesn't include a Ginnell. Therefore, I would suggest that comments about proposed Ginnells in the future are inappropriate in terms of reasons for refusal of this application. It has to go to the material planning considerations that have been explained in the officer's report.
Councillor James.
Well, I understand what Tom's saying, and to a 99% of the way I can agree with him. But the fact is, he did not correct Tim Wynn when he made that comment. He didn't point out that it wasn't in the planning application. He allowed an officer to make that statement. Therefore, it's now a public fact that that statement has been made.
But still not part of the application.
Yeah. Yes. And if I could jump in, I was listening to Mr. Wynn when he was making his comments, and he didn't make a proposal. He indicated that if legal rights are established, then there might be a possibility of incorporating a Ginnell. That's as high as he put it.
Councillor Lindridge.
Thanks, Chair. I did mention earlier I felt uncomfortable, and I understand Tom's explanation on that. One of the reasons I'm thinking, without going into all the technicalities, under the Localism Act, I understand that part of the process to engage with local residents, and I don't feel as if I'm getting that feeling that we have done that sufficiently well, and that what made me uncomfortable. I'm feeling from a material planning situation, our hands are tied a little bit to say we should be voting for this, but on the evidence and the discussions we're having here, we may be going against the legal constraints, so to speak, if I'm using the right words. So that's what makes me feel uncomfortable. I'm now in a situation where I'm feeling I'm being advised that we should be voting for this. So unless there's a re-vote on this, you know,
well, the recommendation was to approve from officers. That was fairly clear in the report.
Well, I understand that. So you're actually then saying we should be, if we can't give a strong enough argument, you're saying to us we should vote for it, and then we'll take the consequences after that.
I think what we're saying, Councillor Lindridge, is taking on board the fact that the report is before us and we've all had time to read the report. What is the material consideration as to why we cannot approve this application? That is what is before us. Councillor Fleming.
Yeah, I think I go along the same line as Jim, that the village's objections is the main reason that I voted the way I did. And I know that's not a material reason, but I think that we needed more clarity on that area. And that's the only reason I went the way I did.
I mean, my frustration as I sit here now is that we had time for general debate. There were no more hands up, and we've gone to a vote while general debate could have still been had and questions be asked at that point. So, excuse me for being slightly frustrated, but we did have opportunity for this to be debated and those questions to be pushed and to be pushed and to be pushed, and there were no hands up on my computer to continue that debate, and we are still sat here now having debated this for almost 40, probably an hour, if not a bit more, and we still have no material reason as to why we are not accepting this application. Am I correct? Councillor Brewer.
I'm terribly sorry, but given that no members seem to be able or willing to give a material reason as to why we would reject the application, is there any possibility of, I hesitate to use the word nullify the vote, but essentially cancel it out, bring us back to general debate either today or at a later date until such a reason is either given or the issues are ironed out? And if possible, can I propose that?
Tom?
Yes, well, I could jump in. The vote has been taken, so the that item has been, at that particular point, approval of officer recommendation has been dealt with. So you can't nullify that vote, it's a matter of record. But the item still remains on the agenda to be dealt with. Now, it can either be dealt with by moving for a refusal, and at the moment, members appear to be having difficulty in formulating reasons for refusal. Or alternatively, and I hesitate to say this, or alternatively, it be adjourned to a later meeting. But I say I hesitate to say that because this application has already been a protracted one. But again, it's a matter for members.
Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. I think one of the difficulties here is from other members, and certainly one for me, although there are others I've mentioned, is the consultation. That there appears to be lots of residents that don't feel that they had any input to the consultation, and I think I empathise with that, and I don't know if James was alluding to putting this back until we had some more of that consultation. Obviously, he wasn't allowed because Tom says the vote's already been. So I don't know where we go from here. But I think,
and neither do I. I think we're at a point where I think Dan went through all the statutory consultation at a previous question, and nobody came back on the answer that he gave then. So unless people are saying that the additional consultation that they did on top of what would normally done because we or the council are the applicant, then I don't know what's being asked for by members. Councillor James.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, in some ways, I think maybe Tom's dealt with the issue, but the suggestion that we should change our view once it's been taken, I would absolutely object to in principle, because to be fair, that comes down to the bullying of members.
Does it?
Yeah.
I've never known James Brewer be referred to as a bully before. That's an interesting.
Well, I'm not saying that James Brewer is a bully. The principle is wrong.
Okay. Well, I agree with the principle being wrong. I'm not sure whether I agree with the latter part, that it amounts to bullying. Councillor Loynes, I think it is.
Hello, just going back to Councillor Brown's point of lack of consultation, as Dan said, that 84 letters of a consultation was sent out and 41 were received back, and we've had plenty of information both by emails from residents and in the paperwork as well, the reports. There was a meeting arranged shortly before Christmas. I was unable to attend because I was on a mayoral duty in the village at the time at the school. So I think there has been the right amount of consultation, Councillor Brown. So it was just to clarify that, you know what I mean? I think the villagers have had quite sufficient consultation.
Councillor Brewer.
Thank you, Chair. Just a minor point to Marjorie. I am sincerely apologetic if it came across if I was bullying anywhere. I was simply trying to find a way, well, ask if there was a way that we could extend our amount of time to give us the opportunity to formulate a reason. That's all.
I'll let that. I know you were next, Councillor Brown, but I'm going to let Marjorie respond to that. Councillor James.
Thank you, Chairman. The fact is, as I was trying to say before, I did not at any point, as far as I'm aware, say that James Brewer was trying to bully other members. The fact is that if a decision has been taken, then that decision stands.
And we agree with that.
It's finished. It's over with. That is the decision. Yeah. And for officers or other members to be allowed access to try to persuade others by whatever means would, in my view, constitute bullying of members. The decision's been taken. Because the council may not like it, but it's tough.
Thanks for the clarity, Councillor James. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. Based on what Marjorie's just said, if we are saying the decision has been taken, that's that, then I guess there's no need for me to say any more. Are we saying that what Marjorie's just said is acceptable?
Well, I think we're still in the wave of we don't have a material consideration to reject, and members haven't brought anything forward. So I think we're still in that kind of wave of indecision about where we are in terms of a material consideration not to approve. So I think that's what we're struggling for at the moment.
Okay.
I think what I'll do. I think what I'm going to do is if members, if I could get a seconder for this, I'm going to defer this and we'll move on to the other applications and then we'll bring this back in at the end.
Keep putting my hand up, Chair. Nobody's responding.
There's nothing coming up on. Oh, that's
Can I second that?
It's just come back up on the screen there, Councillor Indridge. It keeps going off for some reason. Yeah, right. I'm with you.
Okay.
Councillor Indridge.
I'm just trying to, whether it's a technical issue and I don't know. Right. What about then, if you want a reason, then I'd say this is against the neighbourhood plan and it's overdevelopment in the rural area. So if that's acceptable on that stage, then the vote that we've put through stands. I don't,
Tom,
it might knock me down technically. I don't know. I'm just trying to say as I feel as a councillor.
Tom, do you want to come back in?
Unfortunately not. I do seminars on committee procedures and I give those examples as exactly the reasons that you can't give. So I'm sorry about that, Councillor. I think in relation to breach of the neighbourhood plan, you need to focus in on a particular policy of the neighbourhood plan and say why that's breached, not just to refer to the neighbourhood plan in general. So I think, what was the second point, Councillor Indridge?
Overdevelopment, I think you said, Tom.
Yeah, I think with overdevelopment, again, that's we tend to use that as a quick way of saying things, but when it comes down to town and country planning, when we say overdevelopment, what we're normally thinking about is things like overlooking, too much density for the site, things of that nature. But the broad label overdevelopment is I'd call it slang in planning terms. Not wishing to be rude, but we need to get it down to particular site-specific complaints. Normally, when somebody's talking about overdevelopment, they're talking about things like overlooking, or the development is too dense in terms of too many plots per acre, things of that nature. I don't know if that helps your Windows Council of Indridge, but
I know. Thanks, Tom. I think what I'm going to do is what I said originally. I'm going to propose that we move this to the bottom of the planning applications, and it'll give members time to think about what the material consideration might be. Can I get a seconder for that?
I'll second it, Mike. I think it's a good idea.
Thanks, Councillor Lyons. Can we do a roll call, please?
You're not giving us much chance to think.
Yes, as the chair just said, the question is whether members wish to defer this item to later on in the meeting. I'm going to go through the names again. So, Councillor Brewer, for, against, or abstention?
For.
Councillor Brown?
Sorry, thank you. Can I ask the chair, defer it for what? What exactly?
Councillor Brown, we don't have a material consideration as to why we're refusing the application. So we need a member to come forward with something of that is a material consideration, and we're not going to get there. It looks like even by the end of this agenda item, but at least by putting it to the end, we can make another decision. If we need to defer further, we'll defer further at that point. But at least it gives another chance in this meeting to try and get it over the line. That's all I'm trying to do. If you're against that, that's fine. But you know what? It's a fair proposal in my view.
Yeah, absolutely, Chair. I don't mind deferring that. I just was unsure of what we were doing, so thank you for clarifying that.
No problem.
Yeah, lovely. Councillor Buchan?
Yes.
Councillor Fleming?
Yes.
Councillor James?
I can't vote, Chair.
Pardon me. Councillor Lindridge?
Great.
Councillor Loynes? Councillor Loynes?
Sorry. Sorry, I was on mute. Sorry about that. Yes.
And Councillor Young?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, item 2 is 36A Clifton Avenue.
Chair, could I just intervene just
Dave
very
Foxgrove,
briefly?
Democratic Services. Yes.
Just briefly, members were circulated with the leaflet that's usually on the table for committee, the material planning considerations in decision making. That lists material planning considerations. Members may wish to refer to that during the rest of the meeting to try and formulate their reasons for discussion later on, Chair. Just wanting to be helpful there.
Thanks, David. Thank you. Okay, number 2, 36A Clifton Avenue in Hartlepool, and Dan's going to bring this report. Thanks, Dan. Oh, yeah, you're on mute.
Just checking. Thank you, Chair. This item begins on page 18 of the PowerPoint and of your handout, members. The site relates to 36A Clifton Avenue. Planning permission is sought for the erection of a single-storey extension to the side and rear of the property. The proposal also includes the demolition of an existing detached garage, installation of a boundary fence to the side, and the installation of a raised platform and railings to the rear. The existing and the proposed floor plans are shown on Plan 1 on page 19 of the PowerPoint, with the existing arrangement shown to the top of the screen and with the proposed at the bottom. Here, as indicated, is the extent of the proposed extension. The existing elevations are shown on plans 2 and 3 of the PowerPoint, which are pages 20 and 21, with the front elevation here at the bottom of the PowerPoint as existing. Here we have the side elevation and the view to the rear as existing. The proposed elevations of the property are shown on plans 4 and 5 on pages 22 and 23 of the PowerPoint. Here we can see the proposed extension on this plan on the western side elevation, as indicated here, and then when viewed from the rear on this elevation here. In terms of when viewed from the front, this extent from the side elevation would be visible. A visualisation of the proposed dwelling has been provided by the applicant as shown on Plan 6, page 24 of the PowerPoint, as indicated here. Finally, Plan 7 of page 25 of the PowerPoint shows a bird's eye view of the site and the plot and plan, with the proposed extension here on the left-hand side, as indicated here. Full details of the proposal are outlined in the committee report. In terms of the site context, the host property is situated within the Grange Conservation Area and is a locally listed building. The property is split into a ground floor flat and a first floor flat, with the application site being 36A on the ground floor. Photographs of the site and its surroundings are shown on pages 26 to 30 of the PowerPoint. Photo 1 shows the view from the front of the site as existing, looking northward from the road to the front of the existing property. Photo 2 is taken from the west, looking towards the side and rear of the site. Photo 3 shows views from the rear through the rear garden, with Hutton Avenue visible beyond to the north. Photo 4 is taken from the application site, looking back towards the front and the side of the building, with the proposed siting of the extension to go in this area here. The existing detached garage is to be demolished as part of the proposals. Finally, Photo 5 is a view stood from the proposed extension looking westwards towards number 38 from the rear of the application site. The application has been brought before Planning Committee due to a request for the application to be called in by a local ward councillor and the agreement of the Chair of Planning Committee in line with the Council's scheme of delegation. Turning to the background, the relevant planning history is set out in the committee report. The application was deferred for a site visit at the previous meeting of the 3rd of March 2020 and was due to be considered at the meeting of the 18th of March, which was later cancelled owing to the current COVID-19 situation. A virtual site visit took place on Monday of this week. The site history also includes a previously refused planning application in July 2019 for an almost identical proposal. No appeal was submitted against the Council's decision to refuse the application. Turning to publicity, the application has been advertised in the usual manner as set out in the committee report. To date, there have been 2 representations received from neighbouring residents, raising a number of concerns in respect of the proposal, and these are summarised within the committee report at paragraph 2.14. Responses from technical consultees are detailed within the committee report. These include an objection from the Council's Heritage and Countryside Manager, who has raised concerns regarding the impact on the designated heritage asset of the Grange Conservation Area and the locally listed building as a result of the siting and the design of the proposal. Turning to the main planning considerations that are identified in the report, the application site is located in the Grange Conservation Area, a designated heritage asset, and the building is also identified as a locally listed building, which is considered to be a non-designated heritage asset. The proposal, as resubmitted, is of the same design, scale and siting as the previously refused application, with the main difference being the applicant's submission of a more detailed heritage statement. A number of the applicant's main arguments are summarised within paragraph 2.32 of the committee report. The proposal comprises an extension which would project past the original building line and side elevation of the property. Officers consider that this would be out of character in the Grange Conservation Area. Where extensions are found to the rear of the buildings, few cover the whole back elevation or beyond the original side elevation. In this instance, it's considered that the proposal would bring the rear of the property into view when standing in Clifton Avenue, and it's considered that the proposal would disrupt the rhythm of the plots and the street scene. It was also noted by both the case officer and the Heritage Countryside Manager during the site visit that the rear of the application site could be partially viewed from the main street scene of Hutton Avenue to the rear of the site. In view of the above, officers maintain the view that the proposal would result in a less than substantial harm to the designated heritage asset of the Grange Conservation Area and that of the non-designated heritage asset of the locally listed building as a result of the design, scale and siting of the proposed extension. It's further considered that the applicant has failed to demonstrate that the resultant identified harm on the heritage asset would be outweighed by any real or identified public benefits of the proposal. As previously indicated at committee, public benefits are a high threshold to satisfy in such instances. The current application is a resubmission of the proposal previously refused in July 2019 with no notable amendments to the actual design. Officers have offered a potential solution to the applicant in order to make the development acceptable, primarily by reducing the width of the proposed extension to the original building line and side elevation of the property. This would be a reduction in width of approximately 1.9 metres. However, the applicant is unwilling to amend the plans and has not offered any alternative or acceptable solution to the local planning authority. Without such required amendments, it's considered that the proposal would result in a less than substantial harm to the designated heritage asset and to that of the non-designated heritage asset as a result of the design, scale and siting of the proposed extension. With respect to all other material planning considerations and the other elements of the proposal, it's considered that the proposal would be acceptable in such respects. In summary, the proposal is contrary to the identified local plan policies and those of the National Planning Policy Framework, and therefore would warrant a refusal of the application in this instance. The proposal is therefore recommended for refusal as detailed in the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Dan. Questions from members? I believe we have the applicant or representative of the applicant here today. You have 4 minutes to put your case across. Are you there?
Yes, good morning. Good morning, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you've got 4 minutes, sir.
That's fine. Thank you very much. Thank you. Firstly, thank you, councillors, for bringing this application back to committee. The report before you discusses the rhythm of the streets. However, whilst there is a very established rhythm to the west of this site, beyond this site, the established rhythm disappears with a range of buildings, including modern garages, particularly one directly next door, more modern houses, and single properties stretching towards the centre of town. Many of the spaces between the properties have been developed, and although many of those developments were built prior to 2004 and the designation of the conservation area, at least 2 developments in the very recent past have been approved in similar or more intrusive versions of this type of development. Firstly, at number 28 Clifton Avenue, there's a garden room and store that's been constructed. This was consented in May 2019, and it fully fills the width of the driveway and includes a prominent glazed and gabled elevation to the street side. It extends well back beyond the rear of the original property. Across the road at number 25 Clifton Avenue, garage has been constructed very close to the frontage of the house, completely dominating the driveway and obscuring any view. This has been compounded by a yellow brick wall that has been erected across the front of the property and approved by council in February 2017. Public views of the site are extremely limited. It can only be glimpsed when looking directly down the drive, where a distance of around 1 metre can be seen added to the site. To the immediate east of the drive, the proposal is obscured by the main house and a large tree, whilst to the west, only the upper section of the proposed extension can be seen, as illustrated in the visual drawing, one of the previous plans that has just been shown. The glimpsed view from Hutton Avenue is from a distance in excess of 95 metres, and it is glimpsed between two properties. This view of the property is only available if there are no leaves on the trees, if the garden gates are open on Hutton Avenue, and the Hutton Avenue property has no vehicle parked on the drive. I believe that at the virtual site visit on Monday, members were provided with those views and some additional photographs which were taken to illustrate this point. Where the site can be seen, the dominant elements of the site are the pebble dash walls and the UPVC windows, all of which are to be replaced with more sympathetic materials which conform to the guidance set out in the conservation area appraisal notes. In line with this, the proposal will have a pitch slate roof to match the rest of the house. It'll remain subservient to the main structure. It'll provide a discrete but distinctive element in the street and be in sympathy in terms of scale, form and design to the host building. Furthermore, it retains the key original period features of the locally listed building, including the front elevation, the doors, bay windows, railings, and the appearance of that principal block at the front. The report states there are insufficient public benefits to the scheme to justify the extension. It suggested
30 seconds.
Thank you. It suggested that the removal of the modern timber garage, which is in poor condition, the replacement of the modern finishes and windows within the building, and the opening up of the view along the length of the drive to the garden at the rear, the continued private investment in maintaining and repairing locally listed building, and most definitely public benefits achieved at no public cost and with a less than significant impact on the conservation area. We would be happy for conditions covering proposed details of materials, the height of the chimney. Okay, thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? No hands up. Okay, is there an objector? No objector. Okay, thank you very much. Is there any ward members who want to speak on this? No. Oh, and Councillor Brown, are you a ward member?
Sorry, Chair, no.
That's fine. Okay, general debate. Councillor Brown, do you want to come in on general debate? No, any general debate at all?
Mike, can you hear me?
Certainly can.
Yeah, sorry, I'm struggling a bit. I keep having to disconnect the mic to get it to work. I missed the virtual site tour on Monday, and I think this is one of them where you really need to see it and visualize it. So with that in mind, I think I will be abstaining. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other general debate? Councillor Fleming.
Thanks, Mike. Just that regarding that area, we have been up and down quite a lot of times, and we looked at it from all points of view. And from what the applicant was saying, the view when you're going up and down the street is the changes were probably in the period when the change the way they let things through a bit. That lots of the developments were allowed to put UPVC windows in, they were allowed to do all sorts, and then change back again. And I think it's them changes that gives a different viewpoints on the actual thing.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Fleming. Any other debate? Okay, the officer's recommendation is to refuse this application. So it'll be for refusal against.
Mike, I did have my hand up. I did.
It wasn't there. It wasn't there, Councillor Langton.
Oh,
no,
sorry.
It has just appeared now. So it was a glitch in the system.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I've been up and down there many times, and like Councillor Fleming said, that there's numerous houses are all different, and I've looked at that, and I was at the site visit, the virtual site visit, and I've also been up and down myself, and I would much prefer seeing an extension on the side than a garage that literally looks like it's fallen to bits. So I'm going to be voting against the recommendation of the officers. Sorry.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Lyons. We will go to the roll call. As I said, the officer's recommendation is for refusal, and it will be a case of for refusal, against refusal, or abstaining. And I'm going to hand over to Joe to go through.
Thank you very much, Chair. Right, we'll start with Councillor Brewer, please. Councillor Brewer?
Sorry, I was muted. For.
Councillor Brown?
Abstain.
Councillor Buchan?
Against.
Councillor Fleming?
Against.
Councillor James?
For.
Councillor Lindridge?
For.
Councillor Lyons?
Against.
And Councillor Young?
Against.
Sorry, Joe, I am in the meeting. This is Councillor Stokel.
Councillor Stokel arrived.
Yeah.
Sorry, I
Sorry.
didn't realise you joined us.
Yeah, sorry, I just wasn't allowed in the previous one.
Councillor Stokel, can I just clarify? Were you here for the whole of that planning application?
I was here for the whole of the planning. Yeah.
That's fine, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to vote. So do you want to vote on this?
Yes. I'll be against the officer's recommendation.
Against. Okay. Do we have any material reasons why we're against this the officer's recommendation? Jim, do you want to come in?
I'll come in to assist. From what was said, I think members mentioned that there's a variety of development along this street, and that the in this area, and that the removal of the garage would be a benefit to the area. So I think I'm kind of stepping forward a little bit, but I would suggest that means that members' views is that this development has an acceptable impact on the character and appearance of the heritage assets, in their view.
Can I just clarify that the vote was against officer's recommendation, Joe? Yes, it was. Okay, so thanks, Jim. We need a proposer for what Jim's just said, please. Can somebody propose what Jim said? Councillor Lyons, are you going to propose?
I'll propose this. Yes, I'll propose
Somebody to second it?
I'll second it, yeah.
Councillor Stokel, sorry, fantastic. Okay, 2 seconds. It's getting difficult lowering all hands and putting hands. Okay, excellent. So we'll go to the roll call, I think, in terms of that. So we're now going for approval. Is that correct? Tom, can I just clarify that's right by you, that we're now voting?
Yes, we're voting for approval, and the reason is that the development has an acceptable impact on the street circle.
Thank you very much. Okay, roll call.
Okay, we'll start with Councillor Brewer.
Abstain.
Councillor Brown.
Abstain.
Councillor Buchan.
Abstain.
Councillor Fleming.
I think I'm voting for.
Councillor James.
Against.
Councillor Lindridge.
Against.
Councillor Loynes.
For.
Councillor Stokel.
For.
And Councillor Young.
For.
We have a vote on that one of 3 for, 2 against and 3 abstentions.
So it's been approved. Yeah, that application
Conditions.
has been approved and conditioned by Jim. Come in.
Sorry, conditions will be delegated to the planning and development manager.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
Chair.
Councillor
Chair.
James.
Again, I'll make the normal amendment that
Yeah, the chair
the
and the vice
delegation
chair.
includes yourself and the vice chair. Bye.
Yeah, I agree with that. Thanks very much. I think that was a vote of approval from Councillor Lindridge there. Your microphone's still on there, Councillor Lindridge.
I know, yeah. It's all positive.
Okay. Item number 3 is 1 Connerscliffe Road, and Dan's going to take this.
Thank you, Chair. The item starts at page 32 of the PowerPoint and that of your handout, members. The site relates to 1 Connerscliffe Road. Planning permission is sought for retrospective works, including the installation of 2 French doors with balconies at first floor to the rear, the erection of a detached summer house and the erection of a timber gazebo structure to the rear. And the application also seeks planning permission for the erection of a boundary fence to the front of the host property. This latter element hasn't been erected to date, with the all other elements being retrospective. The layout of the site in relation to the adjacent properties is shown on Plan 2, page 33 of the handout. The siting of the detached summer house, timber gazebo and boundary fence within the site is shown on Plan 3, page 34 of the handout. Here we have the timber gazebo in the northeast corner, the summer house here, and then the proposed fence is to go along the front in this area here. The elevations of the dwelling before the balconies were installed are shown on Plan 4, page 34 of the PowerPoint. Here we have the elevations as now built with the retrospective balconies indicated here on the rear of the main elevation and again on this offshoot element here. This is the existing first floor plan, and here we have the first floor plan as on site now with the retrospective balconies indicated here and here. This is an elevation of the proposed timber gazebo located in the corner of the garden. And again, an elevation of the detached summer house. In terms of the proposal, it's set out in full within the committee report. The application site comprises a detached 2-storey dwelling house in an established residential area. Photographs of the site and its surroundings are shown on pages 36 to 48 of the PowerPoint, which I'll briefly go through now. This is a view looking towards the back of the main elevation of the rear of the property and the erected balcony, as indicated here. This is a view from the said balcony from the master bedroom looking towards the rear of 3 Connerscliffe Road. Again, further views from the erected balcony towards the rear of 3 Connerscliffe Road and again further south towards 28 Edgerton Road. And finally, this is a view south from the main master bedroom balcony towards the rear of 26 Edgerton Road. This is looking southeastwards towards the rear of 24 Edgerton Road and 1A Connerscliffe Road. As indicated here, this is the second retrospective balcony that's been erected. This is a view from the garden looking towards the guest bedroom balcony from the rear garden. These are some views from the guest room balcony, again looking directly across and into the rear garden and towards the rear of 3 Connerscliffe Road. Again, further views looking southwest from the guest room balcony towards the rear of 3 Connerscliffe and 28 Edgerton Road. And again, a further view looking southwards. This is a view of the detached summer house as built along the boundary. And again, a view towards the timber garden, canopy and gazebo as built. This is a view from towards the application site from the rear of a neighbouring property of 26 Edgerton Road with the mature conifers along the boundary. And again, a further elevation from this point here. In terms of the relevant planning history and the site context, these are set out in the committee report. The application was deferred for a site visit at the previous meeting of the 3rd of March 2020 and was due to be considered at the meeting of the 18th of March, which was later cancelled owing to the current COVID-19 situation. A virtual site visit took place on Monday of this week. The application has been brought before the planning committee due to its retrospective nature in line with the council scheme of delegation. In terms of publicity, the application has been advertised by way of 8 neighbour letters. To date, 1 objection has been received from a neighbour citing concerns including the loss of privacy due to the balconies and the loss of amenity from the timber gazebo and its visual impact. These representations are set out in the committee report. No objections have been received from technical consultees as detailed in the report. Turning to the main planning considerations set out in the report, overall it's considered that the erection of the detached summer house and the erection of the timber gazebo are acceptable. However, it's considered that the installation of the 2 balconies to the rear result in a detrimental impact on the privacy of neighbouring properties through overlooking and the perception of overlooking. It's also considered that the proposed installation of a fence at the front would have a detrimental impact on the visual amenity of the area. As such, the proposal is considered to be unacceptable for the 2 reasons set out in the report. With respect to all other relevant material planning considerations, there are no additional concerns with the application as set out in the report. In summary, the proposal is therefore considered to be unacceptable and is recommended for refusal for the 2 reasons detailed in the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Dan. Any questions for the officer? Is the applicant here to speak today? No. Any objector here today? No. Ward member wants to speak? No. Okay, general debate.
My hand is
Councillor, yeah, it's taken about 5 seconds to load that up, Councillor Lyons. I don't know
Weird,
why.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, it's probably my tablet. I'm having a problem with this. Yeah, as ward member, I can't see there being a problem with this because the only is number 3, Connors Cliff. But surely if there's some large trees put in, and there is one already, I believe, then surely that'll stop anybody looking over the fence. The other sides, I think the bottom of the garden, you can't see anything hardly for the Leilandi or whatever they are. It's just the side there where there are some trees. Maybe it's a couple of years they might grow, but I wondered if they could put another couple of big trees in, you know, well-established trees that would help number 3.
Okay. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. I know we discussed it, but can I just make absolutely 100% certain and clarify there has been no objectors to this? Am I right?
Dan.
There has been an objection, Councillor. We have received 1 objection. If it's okay with the Chair, just to come back to Councillor Lyons'
do
point.
that.
As shown on the screen here, it's clearly views from the balcony directly visible into the rear garden towards the rear elevation of number 3. The issue with planting has been raised at previous meetings is it can only be protected for up to 5 years, and in this instance you'd be needing some seriously mature trees to go in now. Even if we were to put a screen along the boundary, but when it comes to balconies, it's not just direct overlooking, it's the perception of overlooking. And whilst you may put a screen along that section there, the garden of number 3 is still going to have views and overlooking. And again, it's the perception of that activity and that noise associated with balconies, which creates the concern. So I say landscaping wouldn't be appropriate, and it certainly wouldn't mitigate the impacts of the development from an officer perspective.
Councillor Brown. Councillor Lyons, okay, you can come back on that.
Yeah, could I just come back on that? Okay, so I understand that. So a screen, an opaque screen that covers that area and higher, say like 2 or 3 foot higher, would that be acceptable? You know, that taking that corner off. It's not going to affect the residents of number 3, I wouldn't have thought, if you put a screen up, an opaque screen up.
Dan?
As I said, you can put these screens up, but you pretty much have to enclose the sort of full balcony. I'd have to sort of defer to Ryan to confirm this, but where we've sought to try and address this matter, it is one of those schemes that we've looked at, and we don't feel that the harm or the impacts of it can be mitigated against. So say that the officer concerns are very much detailed in the report. We've undertaken site visit and assessed it from neighbouring properties, and yeah, we don't feel that any mitigation would be appropriate in this instance.
Thanks, Dan. Councillor Brown and then Councillor James, if that's okay. So Councillor Brown first.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, unfortunately, I haven't got the letter of objection. I know it's been discussed earlier in this meeting that they were on some sort of website, but normally I rely on them getting posted to me, and that is normally what happens. Is there any chance we could hear the objection, Chair?
Dan? It's in the report. It's in the report, isn't it? Yeah, on mute. Sorry, Dan. You're on mute.
There have been two objections from members, sorry, two representations from members of the public. One is explicitly an objection, and the concerns raised are summarised in the report, but they do include privacy concerns in terms of views directly achievable into windows of neighbouring properties, and then further concerns are raised with regard to the detached structures in the garden, which from an officer perspective we consider on balance to be acceptable.
Thank you, Dan.
Councillor James.
Just wanted to comment really that we have to deal with the planning application in front of us, not what we would want it to be.
Agreed.
So whether the screen is put up or whether big trees are planted or that, you know, give it 20 years for them to grow is irrelevant really. We have to deal with the planning application that we have.
Councillor Lyons.
I understand that, Councillor James, but on page 79 it says that the retrospective works had been in place for more than 4 years. So, you know, it seems crazy. I'm going to go against the recommendation of the officers again. I'm sorry, but I am.
Ryan.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to come in on Dan's point from earlier regarding the provision of a screen along the side boundary. If Dan can move on to the next photograph, it might show a bit clearer, but a screen solely along the side wouldn't prevent views into the garden. It would have to wrap further round. And even then, that wouldn't overcome the concerns that views are still achievable from the other balcony directly towards the garden.
That's right. Councillor Lyons.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. You know, the side and the corner, you could block the view altogether if you put an opaque screen up, and I'm sure that could be done. You know, with a bit of consultation with the owners. Like I say, it's been up for 4 years.
Councillor Brewer.
Thank you, Chair. If this is retroactive and it's been up for 4 years, have we had an objection within that time before the retroactive application was put in?
Yeah, just to clarify, that point at 3.14 is actually a letter of support where the person, the neighbour, is suggesting that they've been in place for more than 4 years. However, we have no evidence to suggest that is the case. So the application before us requires planning permission, and it isn't immune from enforcement action based on it being there more than 4 years. So that's a comment from a resident as opposed to a matter of fact statement from our perspective. Our view is that it's within 4 years, it requires planning permission, and isn't deemed to be acceptable.
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. Would it be possible, it's been mentioned of putting Brenda mentioned putting an opaque screen up, would it be possible to include that within the plans?
As part of the conditions, do you mean?
Absolutely, Chair, yes.
Should it be approved? Okay.
Yes.
Dan.
As I say, Chair, balconies from a planning perspective often do cause concerns because it's not just only direct overlooking, which, as can clearly seen from the photos, occurs. It's a perception of overlooking. To put a screen up with a return would still, when you are sort of viewing when you stood on the balcony in sort of this area here, you're still going to have views down into their garden area, and this property is whilst it's a sizable garden, you know, it's an amount of amenity space that I feel should be, officers believe should be protected, and you'd basically have to enclose the full balcony with a 1.8 metre high opaque screen to reduce or remove that overlooking. But I say in such proximity to the boundary, it's that perception of overlooking. It's not a standard relationship to have noise and activity at an upper level immediately adjacent to someone's garden. And so balconies do often raise these concerns. Where we can mitigate them, we certainly look to do so and work with applicants. But in this instance, we feel that those impacts can't be mitigated against in this instance.
Any further general debate? Okay, the officer's recommendation is for refusal on this application, and we'll go to a roll call.
Okay, we'll start with Councillor Brewer.
4.
Councillor Brown.
You're very quiet, Joe. I'm not sure where your microphone is.
Councillor Brown, is that better?
I'm in support of the officers, Joe.
Lovely, thank you. Councillor Buchan.
Oh.
Councillor Fleming.
Against.
Councillor James.
4.
Councillor Lindridge.
4.
Councillor Loynes.
Your microphone's on, Councillor Line. Off, sorry, rather.
Right. Against, and can I have that minuted, please?
Absolutely. Councillor Stokel.
Against, sorry.
And Councillor Young.
Against.
Right. That's vote 4 by 5 to 4.
So 4 officer refusal. So the application's been refused. Item number 4 is Kinross in Elwick Road, Hartlepool, and Dan is going to take this application.
Thank you, Chair. This item starts at page 55 of the PowerPoint and that of your handout, members. The site relates to a property known as Kinross on Elwick Road. Planning permission is sought for the erection of a 2-storey extension to the side and a single-storey extension to the rear. Moving through the proposed floor plans and as existing, this is the existing first floor, and as proposed, the extension at first floor level would be in this element here. This is the existing ground floor plan to which the existing conservatory is to be removed. And in terms of the proposed ground floor plan, this is the rear element here of the garden room. Here we have existing elevations looking from the front, side and rear. And as we move on to the proposed, of which this is the proposed extension here, and then the garden room extension on the rear. The proposal is set out in full within the committee report. Turning to the site context, the application site relates to a detached property in Elwick Road. The layout of the site in relation to adjacent properties is shown on page 55 of the PowerPoint, where you can see clearly edged in red. Photographs of the site start on page 65 of the PowerPoint, with views to the existing garage taken with a view to the front of the property, as shown on the slide here. The next photo is a view towards the rear of number 263 Park Road. This is the existing rear elevation of the property. This is a view taken from the rear garden of the neighbouring property to the north at 263 Park Road, looking back towards the application site, the proposed first floor extension to go on this element here. Photo 5 is looking from the application site towards the rear of 263 Park Road, with the identified harm on this window here, which is a dining room. Finally, photo 6 shows a view towards the rear garden, showing the boundary treatment in place. The relevant planning history is set out in the committee report. The application was deferred for a site visit at the previous meeting of the 3rd of March 2020 and was due to be considered at the meeting of the 18th of March, which was later cancelled owing to the current COVID-19 situation. A virtual site visit took place on Monday of this week. The application has been advertised in the usual way as set out in the report, and to date there have been 3 responses offering no objections to the proposal. No objections have also been received from technical consultees as detailed in the report. Turning to the main planning considerations identified in the report, the proposed two-storey side extension would be located approximately 8 metres from an identified habitable dining room window in the ground floor rear elevation of number 263 Park Road, which abounds the site to the north, and is as shown on photo 5 of the PowerPoint, as indicated here. This distance is contrary to the required 10 metres as set out in the Council's adopted local plan policy QP4 and the Residential Design Guide as adopted in 2019. As a result of this inadequate distance, it's considered that the proposed two-storey extension to the side, which would run along the rear boundary to 263 Park Road by virtue of its siting and scale, would result in an unacceptable loss of amenity for the adjacent neighbouring property through overshadowing, loss of outlook and an overbearing impression to the identified habitable room window in the rear elevation of number 263 Park Road, as well as its immediate garden area. This is contrary to the identified policies and those of the NPPF as set out in the report. Whilst it's acknowledged that no objections have been received from the current occupier of 263 Park Road, both the NPPF and the local plan require developments to safeguard the amenity of existing and future occupiers of neighbouring properties. With respect to all of the relevant material planning considerations, including the impact on other neighbouring properties and the impacts of the proposed rear extension, the proposals are considered to be acceptable in such respects for the reasons set out in the report and subject to appropriate planning conditions had the application been acceptable overall. For the reasons set out in the report, the proposal is therefore recommended for refusal. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much, Dan. Any questions from members to the officer? Is the applicant here?
Yes, I am, Chair.
Fantastic. You've got 4 minutes to put your case across. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. Thank you for your time today. I'm Michael Crosby, the owner of Kinross, Elwick Road. I'll be keeping this short. The proposed application is of great most importance to my family. The proposed first floor extension to the side of the property will be built above the existing garage and give an additional bedroom to the property. With this added third bedroom, our youngest child will have a room of his own and no longer have to be sharing with us, his parents. We hold the property close to our hearts, and I believe the design is sympathetic to the existing dwelling and the surrounding area. After reading the report, there are just a few points. Apologies if these were discussed during the virtual site visit. On the 20th, however, I was not added to the meeting. The proposed double-storey extension to the side of the property will be built on the current footprint, and as such, the separation distances between my property and that of 263 Park Road would remain the same. Although the QP4 in the Hartlepool local plan specifies a separation distance of 10 metres from gable to principal elevation, and I may perceive this wrong, but it would seem to me that that distance is referred to for new housing developments, and the paragraph below advising that extensions to buildings that would significantly reduce the separation distance between properties would not be permitted. As previously stated, the separation distance from my property to that of the single-storey elevation of 263 Park Road would remain the same. There were 8 neighbour notification letters sent out, along with local ward members. On the expiry of this consultation, there were no objections submitted, and we had 3 replies offering no objections to the proposal. This from the property to the rear of me and both adjoining neighbours, including that of 263 Park Road. Due to the fact we're not reducing the distance between our property and that of 263 Park Road, and that we have no letters of objection, I really do hope the members can support the application today. Thank you again for taking the time to listen to me words.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the applicant? Okay. We don't have any ward members, I don't think, want to speak on this. I've not been notified. No. Okay, general debate. Councillor Brewer.
Thank you, Chair. Just 3 quick points on it. It seems to be a family home, so I assume that the family isn't going to be leaving anytime soon. And given that there are no objections, and earlier in the meeting, the officers made it clear that they do go above and beyond to make people aware of any changes in the area when it comes to planning, I don't see that as being an issue. And if it's being built above the garage, that doesn't scream to me as if it's going against the layout of the area. And if it is a bedroom, it can only offer benefit to the area. And that's just my 2 cents.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Brewer. Councillor Lyons.
You've took the words out of my mouth, basically, Councillor Brewer. I can't see there being a problem at all. If they're building above the garage, there's been no objections from 263 Elwick Road, Park Road, sorry. I'm up and down there all the time, and I think it would enhance the area rather than, obviously they've used the at some point, maybe it's a previous owner has used above the garage for maybe sitting out in the sun or whatever. But I think an extra bedroom would probably enhance the house, and also the extension on the back. I can't see that being a problem neither. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Lyons. There's nobody else looking to add to the debate. The officer's recommendation is for refusal, and we'll go to the roll call, please, Joe.
Thank you very much. We'll start with Councillor Brewer.
Against the refusal.
Councillor Brown.
Against the refusal.
Councillor Buchan.
Against.
Councillor Fleming.
Against.
Councillor James.
Against.
Councillor Lindridge.
Against.
Councillor Lyons.
Against the refusal.
Councillor Stokel.
Against the refusal.
And Councillor Young.
Against.
That's unanimous against.
Yep. Jim, do you want to come in?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just in terms of the reasons given by members for going against the recommendation, they're mainly focused on the in planning terms on the fact that the extension was considered acceptable in terms of its impact on the character and appearance of the area, and I would propose to record that as the reason.
Okay, can we get somebody to propose that from the members, please?
Move it.
I'll second
it.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm not sure where we are with that. So we'll go with hands up first. That'd be a useful thing, please.
Yes.
Okay, Councillor Brewer's put his hand up, so he's going to propose it, and Councillor Lyons has put a hand up, so she's going to second it. Thank you very much.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, so we can just chip in, Chair, and say that that's the usual thing about conditions being dedicated to the Chief Planning Officer.
Absolutely, and the Chair and the Vice Chair.
That's fine. Yeah.
Thanks, Tom. Okay, roll call, please.
Yes, thank you very much. So, Councillor Brewer.
This is to approve, yes?
It is,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh, 4.
Councillor Brown.
4.
Councillor Buchan.
4.
Councillor Fleming.
4.
Councillor James.
4.
Councillor Lindridge.
4.
Councillor Lyons.
4.
Councillor Stokel.
4.
And Councillor Young.
4. That application is approved. Right, we go back to item 1 in section 4.1 of the agenda. Councillor Fleming.
Yeah, can I ask for an adjournment for a couple of minutes? Comfort break,
of course.
yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. But yes, I'm happy with that because I too could use that. To be fair, yeah, we'll have a couple of minutes break. Thanks, everyone.
We're back on.
Okay, thanks for everybody's patience there and members of the public who may be watching. We're going back to the first item in 4.1, which is land at Hillview. We deferred this item to the end of the other applications because we couldn't reach a decision on material conditions why it shouldn't be approved. Councillor Stokely, you're going to have to leave the meeting at this point, I'm afraid. So you're going to have to leave the meeting because you have a conflict of interest, which you declared last.
Thank you, Chair.
Yes, so just if you don't just want to exit, I'll wait for you to exit the meeting. Thank you. You've gone. So yeah, is there any further comment that any member wants to make? Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah. Well, we've gone against the officer's decision on two items in this meeting we're having, and the reason for that was for an acceptable impact. So can this not just be an unacceptable impact, and therefore the same?
I mean, I've kind of been scrabbling about for notes myself, and I'm kind of trying. Obviously, I voted for the application, but in the interest of trying to bring this to a close, I wondered if Tom would advise on the following. The development will have a detrimental impact on the character and appearance of the area by reason of the high density of the development.
Just writing it down. I'm a bit slow.
Sorry, so I didn't read it particularly well either. So the development would have a detrimental impact on the character and appearance of the area by reason of the high density of the development.
Yeah, that's a legitimate reason for refusal, Chair.
Okay, so can I get a proposer for that, please?
Sorry, Chair.
Councillor Lindridge. You're muted, Councillor Lindridge.
So we had a few minutes break there. I've missed the last minute or so.
Sorry, sorry, I was shouting people back, so apologies for that. If you,
sorry, and I'm thinking, have I missed something? Are we going to a vote?
I only gave 2 minutes, so I ran back myself. To be fair, so
sorry. So we are talking about Hillview now, are we?
Hillview, yeah, we're back to Hillview, and what I've done is I've managed to scrabble around and get some guidance and things like that, and as part of the policy, and I put forward that the development would have detrimental impact on the character and appearance of the area by reason of high density of the high density of the development. Can I get some?
So are we on live stream at the minute?
We are, yes.
And Tom, well, I'd run up to get the local plan out, and I was thinking,
well, yeah, well, I've fortunately I'm in the civic centre, so there was one handy for me.
Okay.
So, Councillor James, did you want to say something?
Yes, I did, Chair. I wanted to add to the item that you've given yourself, and to say that in my view, and I accept that I couldn't vote on the application anyway, but in my view, residents have had an enjoyment of local public open space for a number of years, and we're talking about tens of numbers of years, and that it would be unacceptable for them to now lose that. It would be detrimental to their public health, and it would be detrimental to their mental well-being.
I appreciate you coming in, but the only thing that goes against that is the actual neighbourhood rural plan that was voted in and legally adopted into the local plan, that was a residents created document, actually says that land was identified for development. So that doesn't actually fit with what the residents have asked for in the rural neighbourhood plan. So I don't think we can add that. Well, Councillor Lyons.
Yeah, going on from what Councillor James has said. As I said earlier, I have been up there many thousands of times, and I've never ever seen anybody on that piece of land. I haven't, and as I say, I've been a councillor for 8 years up there, and previous to that, I had relatives living in Hillview, so I've been a regular visitor over the year, many years. Never seen anybody on there, so I just wanted to raise that point.
Thanks so much. Yeah. So I put forward the point that I put forward as a material consideration. Do we have somebody to propose that as the actual reason? Councillor Buchan. You must be muted, Councillor Buchan. Councillor Buchan. Councillor Buchan. Anybody else who wants to propose it? Councillor
I'll
Brown.
propose it, yeah.
All right, so Councillor Fleming's proposing it. Councillor Brown. Councillor Brown.
Have you got me, Chair?
I have.
Yep, sorry, I'll second it.
Thank you. We'll go to the roll call then, please, Joe. So this is now to refuse the application at Hillview.
Hang on. Sorry.
Well.
Yeah. Okay, we'll start the roll call. Councillor Brewer.
To refuse, against.
Councillor Brown.
For.
Councillor Buchan.
To refuse the application.
Councillor Fleming.
Refuse.
Councillor James.
I can't vote on the issue.
That's correct. My apologies. Councillor Lindridge.
Refuse the application.
Councillor Loynes.
Against.
Councillor Storkel. Oh,
He can't
vote either.
He's out
Yeah.
the meeting.
Yeah, and Councillor Young finally.
Against.
1, 2, 3, 4. Right, that's the members have voted to refuse the application by 4 to 3.
Okay, the application is refused. We move on then to item 5. These items are for information, and we'll go to 5.1.
Thank you, Chair. This is just for an update on current complaints. It's quite a lengthy list accrued over the last few months during the lockdown.
Do we want to go through them all, or do we want to just go to Dan separately, because it's already been a fairly long meeting? So can I request that we go to Dan separately if we want to see any of those complaints, please?
I'll second
Agreed. Yeah, thank you. Okay. So item 5.2. Sorry, Dan.
Thank you, Chair. This is just to notify members of an appeal that's been submitted against the Council's decision to refuse an application for a change of use from retail to hot food takeaway and the installation of a flue at 16 Sydenham Road. The application was refused as detailed in 1.2 of the report, and it's just for members to note that we'll be contesting the appeal.
Okay. Item 5.3.
This relates to an appeal outcome at 1 Grassholm Road. Members will recall the application was refused at the committee back in August of last year in respect of the alterations to ground levels and the erection of retaining walls and boundary fencing. The appeal was dismissed in February of this year, and a copy of the inspector's decision is appended to the report. Therefore, this is just for members to note the outcome of this appeal.
Thank you. Item 5.4.
This relates to an outcome of a planning appeal made against an enforcement notice that was served in respect of unauthorised windows at 10 Queen Street in the Headland. The appeal was dismissed in February 2020 of this year, and an enforcement notice was upheld. Again, it's just for members to note the outcome of that.
Thank you very much. 5.5.
This relates to an appeal at 69 Kesteven Road. The council, under delegated powers, refused an application for a 2-storey extension to the side, owing to its impacts. The appeal was actually allowed in March of this year, and a copy of the inspector's decision is attached. This is therefore for members to note the outcome of the appeal.
Thank you. 5.6.
This relates to the outcome of a planning appeal made against an enforcement notice served in respect of an unauthorised shipping container to the rear of 9 Roseby Road. The enforcement appeal was dismissed in June of this year, and the enforcement notice was upheld. A copy of the inspector's decision notice is attached, and therefore it's for members to note the outcome of the decision.
Thank you. 5.7.
In a similar fashion to at 10 Queen Street, this is at 8 Queen Street, again for unauthorised plastic windows. This is to advise members of the outcome of a dismissed enforcement appeal, in which the appeal was dismissed and the enforcement was upheld, and therefore it's for members to note this appeal decision.
Thank you. 5.8.
This relates to an appeal at 23 Redwood Close for the erection of a two-star extension to the side. It was refused on 2 grounds in terms of its visual impact and on highway safety. The appeal was dismissed, and therefore for members to note the outcome of that.
Thanks, Dan. 5.9.
This relates to various alterations to raise the roof and other alterations at a property at 1 Bute Avenue. The application was refused under delegated powers back in October of last year, and the appeal was also dismissed by the Planning Inspectorate in March of this year. Therefore, for members to note the outcome of this appeal.
And 5.10 or 5.10, depends if you're a maths teacher.
This relates to an appeal at 193 Raby Road. It was a retrospective change of use to a hot food takeaway and the erection of a flue. Members will recall that the committee refused the application, and following the appeal was actually dismissed. Therefore, it's for members to note the outcome of this appeal.
Thank you very much. Item 6, any other business? I've got no further business. Item 7 requires us to go into exempt items. Can I have a proposer? Oh, sorry. Before we go into exempt items, we need Councillor Marjorie James to come in. Sorry, Councillor Marjorie.
Thank you, Chair. I did put my hand up when the officer was speaking about some of the issues. And can I just remind the officer and other members that Hartlepool Borough Council does not have a policy against what was called plastic windows, which I take to be UPVC windows. We don't have a policy that opposes UPVC, even in a conservation area, as long as they are of a standard and type that is fitting with the area concerned. They may cost more, but it is possible to have UPVC windows that meet the necessary arrangements for a heritage area. The officer referred to plastic windows, but that's not the reason we would refuse.
Probably wasn't the reason either. Thank you, Councillor James, for that. Proposal to go into exempt items, please. Councillor Brown.
Yeah, I propose we go into exempt items.
And I'll take Councillor Brewer as a seconder, and we'll go into exempt items. So can we turn the live stream off, please? And